When I was 10, I learned that silence was easier than arguments. Lydia cried, and I cleaned up the mess. She forgot, and I remembered. That pattern became our family rhythm. Mom called it balance. Dad called it responsibility. I called it survival. At 16, I worked double shifts at a diner to buy books for school. Lydia spent her afternoons tanning by the pool. She always said, "You're so good at fixing things, Emma." But she never asked what it cost me. When her car broke down, I used my savings for her repairs. When she missed rent, I covered the bill. Each time, Mom said, "Family helps family." And every time I believed it meant love. I didn't see it was obedience disguised as care. They didn't even have to ask anymore. They just expected. It became my unspoken duty. Be generous. Be quiet. Be useful. 2 months before the forged contract, we had Sunday dinner. Lydia flashed her engagement ring like a trophy. Dad filled his glass and smiled. "Emma," he said, "you've got that promotion now." He paused, just long enough for me to understand the weight. "You could help with the wedding expenses." The table went silent. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. "I can't afford that," I whispered. I was still paying off student loans. Mom sighed, slow and disappointed. "You've always been so practical," she said softly. "Surely you can manage this one thing for your sister." Lydia added, "The deposit is due next week." Like she already knew my answer didn't matter. I looked around that table and saw my role clearly. Not a daughter. Not a sister. Just an account with a name. The next week, Lydia texted me pictures of flower arrangements. Each one more expensive than the last. "What do you like best?" she asked. I didn't reply. She sent a heart emoji anyway. That was Lydia's way of sealing a deal. I spent that night staring at my ceiling, thinking about how long I'd been paying for peace. How many times I had chosen guilt over truth. Every act of generosity had become a chain. And somehow, I had locked it myself. When I found that forged signature, I wasn't just shocked. I was exposed. It was the moment I saw the pattern in full light. My kindness had been their currency. My silence, their permission. They'd mistaken my love for surrender. And for the first time, I wondered what would happen if I stopped. If I let the guilt fall and simply walked away. The thought terrified me. But beneath the fear, something pulsed quietly. It was small, unfamiliar, and stubborn. It felt like the beginning of strength. The night after discovering the contract, I couldn't sleep. My laptop glowed in the dark like an open wound. I typed the word "wedding" into my email search bar. Dozens of results appeared. Most were spam or advertisements. But one thread stood out. It was between my parents and Lydia. Subject line, "Emma's contribution." My stomach tightened. I clicked. Mom's words stared back at me. "She'll give in eventually. She always does." Lydia replied, "If not, we'll figure something out. She's got the credit." My hands trembled over the keyboard. They hadn't even asked for my help. They'd planned to take it anyway. It wasn't generosity they wanted. It was access. I closed my eyes and felt the years pressing down. The loans. The favors. The endless emotional taxes. It wasn't family love. It was dependence dressed as affection. I opened a new spreadsheet. Titled it Debts. Row by row, I listed every dollar I had surrendered. Lydia's trip to Miami. Dad's temporary business loan. Mom's emergency dental bill that never got repaid. The total grew like a bruise on the screen. 42,387. And now 78,000 more for a wedding. I sat there until dawn, my fingers numb. When morning light hit the wall, I made a decision. This pattern would end with me. Later that day, I called my friend a leaner at work. She was in marketing, but knew everyone in the design world. "I heard Savannah Home Interiors is hearing," she said. "They're opening a new office. Want me to send your portfolio?" I hesitated, then nodded even though she couldn't see me. "Yes, please do." The idea of leaving both thrilled and terrified me. Could I really start over? Could I live without their approval? That evening, I searched for apartments 3 states away. Small ones, quiet ones, places where no one would know my last name. For the first time in years, the idea of being alone felt peaceful. My phone buzzed with Lydia's message. "Venue deposit confirmed. Thanks again, sis, you're the best." I stared at the screen until it dimmed. She thought she'd already won. She thought I'd stay silent forever. I started drafting a resignation letter for my current job. Not to quit yet, but to remind myself I could. It felt like reclaiming oxygen. I printed the forged contract and placed it beside my bed. A reminder of what I was escaping. That night, I whispered into the dark. "I'm done being the quiet one." The words sounded strange but powerful. They didn't echo like a question. They landed like a promise. And somewhere between fear and freedom, I began to believe them. Days passed in a blur of plans and secrets. I moved carefully, like someone walking on thin ice. Every message from Lydia became proof, not conversation. She sent pictures of flowers, cakes, and dresses. Each text assumed my approval. Each one added to my growing folder of evidence. Mom called daily, her voice soaked in guilt and sweetness. "Emma, don't be difficult. Family always finds a way." I started recording every call. Not out of revenge, but survival. The truth had to have witnesses this time. One evening, a new email arrived from the venue. "Second payment due next week." They had used my credit again. My chest burned as I stared at the screen. I wasn't just being taken advantage of. I was being erased. That night, Jonah came over with takeout and coffee. He was the only one who knew everything. "They forged your name, Emma. That's fraud." He said it calmly, but the words cracked something inside me. I'd spent years calling it family loyalty. He called it what it was, abuse. We searched through online forums about identity theft. I read state laws until my eyes blurred. I could terminate my lease early if I proved forgery. I could leave without penalty. Jonah helped me draft an outline, evidence, timeline, and contacts. He even found a lawyer willing to consult pro bono. When he left, I sat in the quiet and realized something. I wasn't helpless anymore. I had facts. I had choices. A week later, the wedding planner, Marissa, showed up unannounced. She wore diamonds and perfume that filled the hallway. "Emma, finally we meet. Lydia speaks so highly of you." Her voice sparkled with rehearsed charm. She handed me a thick folder. "Just need your approval on the updated invoices." I flipped through the pages slowly. Custom flutes, imported orchids. $10,000 for lighting labeled E-More, confirmed. I looked up. "I never confirmed this." Marissa blinked, confused. "But your sister said you requested it personally." Lydia stood nearby, color draining from her face. "Emma loves dramatic lighting," she muttered. I smiled slightly. "Could I see all the contracts, please?" Marissa hesitated. Mom appeared with coffee, pretending not to hear. "Let's not make a scene, dear." But I wasn't making a scene. I was documenting one. When they turned away, I photographed every page. That night, I uploaded the images to a secure folder. Jonah texted, "That's your proof, keep going." I felt a strange calm wash over me. For the first time, fear didn't lead the way. Determination did. I printed a list titled Exit Strategy. Underlined the final step twice, leave without warning. As I stared at it, my heart finally steadied. The plan wasn't just escape anymore. It was justice. The job offer arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Subject line, "Welcome to Savannah Home Interiors." I read it 3 times before it felt real. 82,000 a year. A start date in 3 weeks. Relocation covered. It was the door I had been waiting for. The one that led away from all of them. I printed the offer letter and folded it neatly. Then I looked around my apartment. Every piece of furniture carried a story of sacrifice. The desk I bought after my first promotion. The couch Lydia once borrowed money for. The chipped mug that had shattered the day I found the forgery. I decided to leave them all behind. Only what I needed would go with me. That night, I called the moving company. "I need the pickup on the 14th, exactly noon," I said. The woman asked if there was a reason for the precise time. "Yes," I answered softly. "My family will be gone." They would be at the cake tasting. The timing was perfect. The next morning, I called my landlord. I explained the identity theft and forwarded the documents. He paused, then sighed. "No one should go through that, Emma. I'll waive the fee." I hung up, tears stinging my eyes. Not sadness, relief. Every detail fell into place, like pieces of a quiet rebellion. I transferred my accounts to a Savannah branch. Requested new cards, new numbers, new everything. Each click felt like cutting another invisible chain. Mom's calls kept coming. Lydia's messages grew frantic. "Need your approval for linens. Venue says payments due." I ignored them all. When Sunday came, I attended one last family dinner. The air was thick with forced joy. Aunt Ruth hugged me, whispering, "You're such a generous sister." Mom beamed with pride she didn't deserve. Dad bragged about how I insisted on the best for Lydia. I smiled politely and said nothing. Inside, I was already gone. 2 days later, the movers arrived. I watched their truck pull up from behind the curtains. My phone buzzed, 10 missed calls, all from home. I didn't answer. The movers packed with quiet precision. Boxes labeled, furniture wrapped. When they finished, I handed them a tip and whispered thanks. As the last box left the door, I took one final look around. This apartment had been a cage disguised as safety. Now it was empty, ready for someone else's story. I slipped my keys into an envelope for the landlord. Then I picked up my bag and stepped outside. The afternoon sun hit my face, warm and certain. In my pocket, the job offer felt like a heartbeat. As the moving truck disappeared down the street, I whispered to myself, "It's not running away, it's finally leaving." And for the first time in my life, I believed it. The first calls came an hour after the movers left. Mom's voice filled my voicemail with anger and confusion. "Emma, where are you? The venue needs confirmation by 3. Her tone cracked between fury and fear. I didn't answer. Instead, I sat on the floor and listened to the silence of my empty home. For the first time, there was no noise demanding my attention. No one asking, pleading, or guilting. Just quiet. Then the messages kept coming. Lydia's texts were sharp and fast. "What the hell, Emma? The planner says you didn't confirm the flowers. If you ruin this wedding, I'll never forgive you." Each notification blinked like a warning light. I saved them all. Proof of what I had endured. Dad's voicemail followed next. "Family takes care of family. Don't make me come find you." I recorded that too. Evidence mattered more than emotion now. An hour later, I opened my laptop. My email draft to Rosefield Manor was ready. Subject line, "Unauthorized contract and forged signature." I attached photos of the documents, voice recordings, and the handwriting comparison. Then I pressed send. It felt like dropping a match into gasoline. Within minutes, the venue manager called. Her voice was calm but tight. "Miss Moore, this is very serious. We'll be contacting your family immediately." "I understand," I said quietly. I've also notified my lawyer. After the call, I opened another draft. This one to my extended relatives. I kept it simple. No anger, no pleading, just the truth. I attached the evidence again and hit send. Then I sat back and waited. The fallout began within hours. My cousin texted. The venue called Uncle Paul asking for immediate payment. What happened? I replied, ask Lydia. By evening, I saw my mother's post online. Heartbroken when children forget where they came from. The comments rolled in fast. Some scolded me. Others defended me. The family narrative began to crack. The truth leaked through the fractures. By nightfall, the group chat was chaos. Lydia cried to her bridesmaids about the cancellation. Dad called relatives asking for loans. Mom begged the venue for extensions. The wedding was unraveling thread by thread. I poured a glass of wine and watched the storm from a distance. No guilt this time. No regret. Just calm. Around midnight, my phone stopped buzzing. The silence returned, deeper now. I stepped onto the balcony and breathed in the night air. Somewhere, far away, they were still trying to fix what couldn't be fixed. But I was done fixing. I looked at the skyline and whispered, "This is the cost of honesty." Then I smiled, small and steady. For the first time in my life, the truth belonged to me. 4 days after I moved, the calls started again. 23 in the first hour. 37 more by nightfall. Mom's messages blurred together, half anger, half heartbreak. How could you abandon your family? Dad's voice followed, colder. There could be legal consequences, Emma. Think about what you're doing. I placed my phone face down on the coffee table. The new apartment was quiet, filled with the smell of paint and hope. I had been here less than a week, but it already felt like home. Aunt Meredith called next. Your mother is hysterical. Just make peace, dear. Her words rolled off me like rain on glass. The calendar on my wall showed the wedding date circled in red. 1 week away. I stared at it until the ink seemed to fade. When Lydia called, I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Her voice came sharp, raw and tired. You selfish witch, after everything we did for you. Everything you did to me, I corrected softly. Pay for the wedding or you're dead to me. That's your choice, I said and ended the call. No shaking hands, no tears, just peace. Then I opened my laptop. The email to the venue sat ready, with every document attached. Handwriting analysis. Audio recordings. Screenshots of messages. I pressed send. Minutes later, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Miss Moore, said the manager, voice tense. We've reviewed your evidence. We'll be contacting your sister immediately. I understand, I replied. My lawyer will also follow up. When the call ended, I exhaled slowly. Then I sent one last email to my entire family. No insults. No emotion. Just facts. Copies of the forged contract. Proof of credit misuse. Texts showing every refusal I'd made. The replies came fast and furious. Cousin Tom wrote, the venue just canceled the booking. What's going on? I simply said, ask Lydia. By evening, the chaos reached full volume. The wedding was officially postponed. The groom's parents demanded explanations. Rumors spread faster than apologies. Lydia's perfect world cracked open for everyone to see. Mom begged online for understanding. Dad blamed me in private calls. But I didn't respond. I was done being their silence. Later that night, I stood on my balcony watching the city lights flicker. The air was soft and warm, heavy with freedom. 3 months ago, I would have been crying. Now I just breathed. A week later, pictures from the scaled-down wedding appeared online. Lydia in a simple dress. No fireworks. No orchestra. Just consequences. I sent a short message, congratulations, and closed the app. No bitterness, no satisfaction, just release. Mom sent a letter weeks later, full of regret and excuses. I read it once, then folded it away. Some bridges are meant to burn. And as the sunset painted Savannah gold, I finally understood the beauty of distance. Freedom isn't loud. It's quiet, steady, and mine. 3 months later, the morning sun filled my apartment with gold. The shelves held my design books, each one a piece of my new life. The space was small, but it belonged entirely to me. No debts, no expectations, no invisible hands pulling strings. Alina texted, wishing me luck on my new project. I smiled, sipping coffee from a cup, unbroken by anyone's carelessness. My shoulders no longer curved under guilt. They rested easily, light and certain. At work, I learned to say no without apology. I gave my time meaning again. Laughter came easier now, even silence felt kind. When letters from home arrived, I didn't tremble anymore. Some were sorry, some were not. I read them all with calm understanding. Healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant remembering without bleeding. Sometimes I wondered if Lydia ever understood. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Either way, it no longer mattered. I looked out at the city, at the life I built alone. For the first time, peace didn't feel borrowed. It felt earned. And I finally knew leaving wasn't loss. It was freedom finding its way home.